Okay, I'm not going to talk about grazing. My name's Jody Osmond. I'm from Ottawa, Illinois. I've been farming for 15 years, although my life on the farm began when I was a kid, but I graduated high school in 1987 in the midst of the farm crisis. And every kid every kid who had college aspirations was told, go to college, get a career, and that's what I did for 15 years. But I moved back to the family farm about 16 years ago, and we knew we weren't going to be grain farmers because I wasn't a millionaire, and we didn't have 1,200 acres of land to move to, so we started community-supported agriculture enterprise, and we did vegetables on a few acres. Over time, we added livestock. 10 years ago, I was at the SARE conference, the one that was 10 years ago, because we'd gotten a SARE grant in 2006 to learn how to market meat at farmers markets. And that little $6,000 grant has turned into the first meat and egg CSA in Illinois. I'm not sure in the Midwest, but for the past 10 years we've been doing a livestock meat and egg CSA exclusively. We deliver a monthly meat package to about 200 families a month. We also do a farmer's market May through October in the city of Chicago. And one of the things I'm here to talk about is, Greg talked about $100 per cow profit. I have a 35-acre farm. I don't have room for 100 cows. And I've got a family of 5 to feed, and we do it on the farm. So I need to make a lot more than $100 per cow or per pig, not so much on chickens or eggs. But I need to get much more of that retail dollar. And part of that is marketing, and that's what I'm here to talk to you today about, is taking your hard work and getting the true value for it, whether you're a grass-fed beef raiser, pastured poultry, sheep, egg layers, that sort of thing. And what I found at the farmer's market, because we deal in frozen meats, and our butcher does a very nice job, but he uses plain white paper. So I have not, other than this white block of frozen stuff, I don't have anything to sell but my story. And that's what customers are going to buy, whether you're at the farmer's market or at a CSA conference, a CSA fair. They're there to buy your story, or whether it's your website. What you tell people about who you are and what you do, it matters. What that means is you need to have a pitch. We call it an elevator pitch. But you should be able to tell who you are, what you do, and why it's important in 30 seconds or less. My farm name is Cedar Valley Sustainable Farm. One of the questions I get, what does sustainability mean? Well, what it means to me, and luckily I'm not organic certified, sustainability hasn't been taken over by the USDA, but what it means is it's good for the land, it's good for the animals, it's humane, it's good for the farmer, it means I can make a living off of it, and it's good for the consumer. And beyond that, it's good for the world, because our way of farming, grazing, we're sequestering carbon into the soil. And by doing that, we're helping to mitigate climate change. That's a good story. So So that's the story, and that's what people are buying. It helps to have, great kids who come to the farmers market with me, who can talk about the food. But the next question is, why should they buy it from you? And that you have to have a value proposition, and being local, being good for the environment. All of those things are reasons to buy. Once that, and you have to know your story. Just looking at my notes here. If you don't go to sell without passion, people aren't going to buy. And you have to know about your product. If they ask you about your pigs or your cattle, if you don't know what breed they are or what kind of fat content's going to be in the ground pork or the ground beef, they're going to be skeptical. So you need to have those questions. They want to know about your processor. How are they slaughtered? Where are they slaughtered? I have those answers. So that's important. So knowing your story is really, really important. You gotta internalize it, live it. What we like to say is we provide good, clean, and fair food for as many people as possible. So your customers are coming to you because they have a view of the world and what you do, and they have a good feeling about it. The next thing that's vitally important is that you produce the best product possible. And what that means is you're a good grazer. You use the best processors. You feed high quality feed all the time. You treat your animals well. And the way we do that is we've built our reputation over time. We started out very small doing the farmers market, and we learned what worked and what didn't. Excuse me. And we appreciate SARE for helping us get started. But what we found out is the farmers market wasn't, our local farmers market in Ottawa, Illinois, couldn't support our farm at the price point we needed to make a living. Because when you're doing things on a smaller scale and you're doing it with local processors, your costs are going to be significantly higher. And you have to pass those on. And that's something we wanted to be very local and feed our community, but we couldn't make a living just off of that. So we had to go to where the market is. And we drive an hour and a half to Chicago to do that. The nice thing about that is there's a lot of consumers there who have the means to pay what we need for our product. And it's nice because it's where we do our farmers markets or have our delivery points are in walking communities with a dense population, and the people view us as their farmer. And we've developed a relationship. Some of our members have been with us for over 10 years now, and their friends become members as well. One of the nice things about relationship selling is you get to know families, and we invite them out to the farm, and they get to see who we are, what we do, and it's a relationship. And sometimes it hurts because we have customers who come to us, we lost our job, we can't continue with the CSA, there's been financial problem. Just this past fall, a member who'd been with us from the very beginning when we were doing vegetables contracted cancer and died, and it tore us up. But that's the nature of what we do and why we love the community aspect of it. And the other thing is producing the best product possible, because one of the things a few years ago the USDA came out with, know your farmer, know your food. And consumers are dying to know their farmers, but I think one of the biggest problems in our food system is the majority of farmers, or not the majority of farmers, because small farmers often outnumber the big ones, but the large farmers, industrial producers, especially in the livestock, they've lost that connection between what they produce and who eats it. And better farmers are made when there's better relationships between the eater and the grower. And one of the things I tell my customers is that there is no way I'm going to cut a corner or feed an animal an inferior feed source, or to give it an injection that it shouldn't get, or that sort of thing, because I know who's eating my food, and it's important to me. And that's the story I tell, and that's why people pay me a premium. And that's why when I take pasture-raised eggs to the market, they truly are hens that thrive on pasture and move around and do the things I tell my customers they do, because every customer who buys my eggs, they come and say, Jody, you have the best eggs. I buy certified, organic, whole food, free range this, and yours are always better. And it's because the reality matches the marketing. And that's how you can demand and feel comfortable getting a price that you can live on. And I know I'm probably a little bit under, and my discussion is a lot different from the grazing. I want to know what you guys would want to hear about my experience over the last 10 or 15 years, and just open it up to the dialogue we were talking about.
Jody, do you just sell at farmers markets and CSA, or do you do like quarters, halves, and what I call freezer beef, freezer pork?
Good question. About 15% of our sales are what we call custom butchered meat, or a lot of people know it as freezer meat, where we sell pork by the whole or the half, and cows as small as a mixed quarter. Our processor will go down to that. I think our grass-fed beef product right now, we're selling at $6.50 a pound on the hanging weight. Same with lamb. Pork is $4.50 a pound on the hanging weight, and then they pay processing. But that's a small portion. On grain-finished beef, I think we're at $4.85 a pound on the hanging weight. We do both. We're not 100% grass-fed with what we do. What we found in our experience at the farmers market is we meet the consumer where they're at. We try to move them along to a more sustainable path, but for the past 60 years, people have been acclimated and taught that a grain-finished beef product is the best, and we accommodate that.
So I'm assuming the price you're giving me, you're taking those quarters and halves to Chicago also, versus getting that in your local?
We sell some locally. Most goes to one of our CSA pickup sites as well. And then our retail prices are significantly different than like the grocery store. Like if you're going to a Kroger or a Walmart or a Schnucks, we sell ground beef for $8 a pound at the farmer's market, sausage for $9, pork chops go for $12 a pound, steaks anywhere from $18 to, I think our fillets go for $32 a pound. So we make a living off of our small farm. Chicken, our pasture birds sell for $5.50 a pound for whole birds, $6 a pound for cut birds. Eggs are $6 a dozen. Any other questions?
Yeah, I think it's amazing what you can do on 35 acres this way. And I wonder if you would just kind of talk about your production system and kind of what it looks like on the farm with respect to, do you have a base cow herd of 6 to 7 cows? Or are you buying in steers and heifers and putting them on feed and grass? Or
Excellent question. Most of our beef comes from a neighbor's farm, where we've done some of it ourselves, but over the past 10 years, we shifted our production to primarily our broiler operation, our egg layer, and our pork operation. And we work with some neighboring farms as well with pork. But to give you an idea, our laying flock is about 400 hens. In the wintertime, December through about mid-February, we have some pretty brutal winter in northern Illinois. They're in a large hoop house, and they have access to the outside. But when we have snow on the ground or if it's blowing and it's 15 below with the wind chill, they're staying inside. But right now they're grazing very extensively on about 7 acres. Our broiler operation will be gearing up here in a few weeks. We get the first chicks about early to the second week of May. They go on pasture the end of about Memorial Day, and then we get 600 birds each time every 3 weeks through about mid-July, and then our final processing date is about the end of September. So we do about 3,000 meat birds per year, and we net about $10 a bird on those. Hogs, we butcher about 60 hogs and per year, and we raise probably 45 of those on the farm. Egg layers, I'm picking 20 dozen a day right now. Well, not today, I've got a helper at home, as far as that goes. So it's really diverse. On the grazing point of view, running broiler chickens is really transformed our bottomland, which when we first moved to the farm, when we get an intense rain, 3 or 4 inches, we'd have water this deep, and this is on bottom sandy soil. At this point, in the past 15 years, our rain intensity has really increased. We'll get 5 inches of rain overnight, and 8 years ago, we lost a whole batch of chickens to flooding in a rain event like that. We've had rain events like that the last 3 and 4 years, and we've not lost a single chick to drowning, to the flooding, because we've got infiltration and that organic matter, and transforming the soil from row crop farming to continuous pasture, intensively, rotationally grazed, has really made a huge strides in improvement there, both in forage production and that water holding capacity, and also being able to deal with intense weather events. Yes, sir.
CSA, are you filling custom orders monthly, or just breaking out whatever pigs are ready, or livestock's ready to call at that point in time?
We do not do, we deliver about 200 shares a month. Those aren't each an individual order. At this point, we have 3 different share sizes. We have a small, a regular, and what's a large size. Regular is generally 2 to 3 cuts of beef and pork, and then anywhere from 6 to 8 pounds of chicken and 1 to 2 dozen eggs. A small is about half that. It's like a chuck roast, a sausage, a ground beef, and some chicken, dozen eggs. And then large share is a regular share, which is about 12 to 14 pounds of product, half again as much, so about 20 pounds.
Okay. So you're using like everything you're selling, more specialty cuts at the farmer's market then?
Well, like our CSA members, like the regular and large shares, the small shares we just don't have, there's not enough value to do steaks. But our regular shares get our premium steaks, that's a filet mignon, a ribeye, or a New York strip, once every 3 months, or more frequently, pork chops and bacon are on about the same schedule, and then everything else goes in and out. It's based on both season and inventory. Like, as we're heading into summer, we're going to be getting ground pork cased into bratwurst and Italian sausage and things for the grill. Ground beef will be made into patties for our summer market season. And those also go into the CSA shares. But in wintertime, people are getting pot roasts and brisket and beef spare ribs and that sort of thing. So it's variable. I'm more the production side and the marketing side. My wife does the management and logistics of putting the shares together. She keeps an Access database of membership and an Excel spreadsheet for each location, what they've gotten in previous months. So she can look back 2 and 3 months as she's building shares, look at what we have in inventory, and then build the value from there. But they're not a la carte individual orders. I think her head would explode, or mine would, when she, strangled me for saying, why don't we do custom orders? So, other questions? Yeah.
Okay, so you mentioned early on that this model, you tried it at the local markets and it didn't work so well, you had to go to the larger market. What are the barriers to people who are in more rural places? Is it an option to do something like this? And what needs to happen in order for more rural places to have this?
I think we're a small farm. If I had 250 acres and 75 cows and 2,000 hogs and that sort of thing, I could have more of an economy of scale to be able to do that, but I would also have to sell more. I make about as much as far as net when I factor in labor costs on selling a beef into the freezer as I do through the CSA or the farmer's market, because I have a lot more time and labor invested in selling that than I do is simply dropping a beef off and getting those pieces delivered, 85 pounds at a time, if it's a quarter beef. It can be done. I have the luxury of Chicago being 90 minutes away. I also have, and Chicago was where my wife and I were living before we moved back to the farm, so that was the natural for us. We also have Peoria, Bloomington, Champaign, all within a couple of hours of the farm. So there are population centers for us as well. We do probably about 15% of our sales that are people within a 25-mile radius. So it's.
Do you feel like you've exhausted that market local to you, or?
I think there are people who are driving by my farm on the way to Whole Foods or Trader Joe's an hour away. It's harder for me, but they're here and here and here and here and here, and they don't all congregate in a neighborhood. So it's harder to reach. I wanted a market fast because this transition came quickly from vegetables to deciding to concentrate on meat, deciding that our local farmers market wasn't going to be enough to do that. And there was definitely price pushback. We're not the most expensive eggs at our farmers market. We're not the most expensive meat, but we're not the cheapest either. One of the things we found when we were vegetable farmers and selling heirloom tomatoes, we sold a lot more when we priced those uglier tomatoes higher than the pretty hybrids. So there is a conception that a higher price does mean higher quality. So we never want to be the lowest price anywhere. We want to be near the higher price because that's part of our reputation, is that we, week in, week out, month in, month out, we consistently bring the very highest quality eggs, pork, chicken, and beef to our customers. We have seed stock suppliers where we get our genetics from that have gone another route, where they do more of a wholesale to restaurants and have more of a wholesale distribution channel, a little higher volume, but they're still getting a significant premium than taking their hogs to Tyson or their beef to Cargill. So we built our approach around the scale we were at. If we were larger scale, we could reach more of our local market because we would be able to do it at a lower price than we do now. We demand the premium we get because that's what we need to make our living on the parcel. We're not interested in expanding to 500 cows and 2,000 hogs. Very good friend of mine, Greg Gunthorpe in Indiana, he butchers 2,000-3,000 hogs and markets them to wholesale channels at a premium through his on-farm processing. And he's got millions into his processing plant. I don't want to be a butcher or a fundraiser to get that kind of investment to do that. But he's selling more at wholesale prices. And that works too. It just wasn't the way we wanted to do it. Yes, ma'am.
So you said that you needed a market fast. So I was wondering if you explored during your grant period or over time whether or not what I call sales gimmicks, in addition to your story, got more followers. Like something like, okay, well, $2 off a pound or something if you join the mailing list or something like that. I'm wondering if you tried to incentivize people into buying or becoming loyal early on, or if you felt like your story was enough.
Early on, we were approached by Groupon when they were like a small thing, and it just didn't make sense to give half off to build, because occasionally we'll do Groupons and for something, and once we've paid half, say, this evening I'm going to take my 11-year-old rock climbing on a Groupon at about half the cost. I'm not going to go back to that climbing wall and pay full price. And that's how I felt about deep discounting my product. I couldn't take a loss just to build customers, and my thinking was that they're not going to keep coming back unless I keep discounting, and that's just not a sustainable model for us. So we will give discounts for referrals. If a CSA member refers a new member, they both get like $15 off a 3-month share, which is about 5%. So we do things like that. We currently have a spring sale running for new members to get 10% off. So that's as gimmicky as we do, but it's more to incentivize more word of mouth and referrals than.
Jody, I just want to add to that. So I finish cattle on my farm, so all I do is freezer beef, and just because I don't have time to market, I just don't have the time to go to farmers markets and that sort of thing. And I never called it a gimmick, but just the one thing that I did out of the ordinary that I think works very well is I do give my current customers, if they can come up with a new customer, in other words, they find someone out there, and I tell them, listen, don't do this, for just a discount, but if you truly like my product, if they've been with me more than a year, they probably, I assume that's the case. I'll give you X discount on that order that year. And so again, I never really considered a gimmick, but that does seem to work fairly well.
And freezer meat, whether you're doing pork or beef, is an excellent way to get into the marketing. Because at least when we started it, I didn't have to have a broker's license, or that's a lot of the paperwork involved. Basically, we dropped the beef off. We'd have the customer ahead of time. They'd have the name. They'd pick up at the processor. I would meet them there to get their balance. One of the things, if you're not already in freezer beef or freezer meat and you're thinking about it, get a deposit before you commit to that quarter or that half or that whole beef, and make it significant enough that people are, it's going to hurt to renege, because it can, if you're only doing freezer beef and you don't have a retail outlet that you can sell that, you're gonna eat that beef yourself, and you're gonna lose that profit. What we do with our freezer beef, it's a $150 deposit per quarter. So if somebody wants a whole beef, that's $600 that they're paying me up front. On hogs, it's $50 a half, so it's $100 on a hog. So you need to make sure they're putting a little skin in the game, so you're not left behind. I have long-term customers that have been with me for several years, 8, 10, 12 years, because I've been doing freezer beef and freezer hogs for a long time. If they forget to send me the deposit, that's okay. I'm still taking it into the processor for them, because I have that relationship. But if it's somebody new the first time, or the first 2 or 3 times, make sure you're getting that deposit, because that's.
Do you provide them with a cut sheet or anything like that? It's from the packer?
On our website, cedarvalleysustainable.com or chicagomeatcsa.com, if you go there, you can see there's investing shares, there's package orders, and there's custom butchered. If you go to the custom butchered part, there's a cut list on there for a typical typical beef, and people can divide by 2 if they're getting a half, 4 if they're getting a quarter. So that's there. We work with a processor that's really good about walking first-timers through that cut list. And sometimes we'll have a person that says, I don't know, we'll do our cut list. Does that answer your question?
It does, and I wonder if you would also maybe spend a minute talking about your perception and experience, and Greg, you might as well, working with a processor. I mean, have you found that there's any, what have you learned working with a processor that you would tell other prospective producers who are going to be working with, let's say, a custom processor? What do they have to know?
Do you do preservative-free sausages? A lot of custom processors, they buy in their spice mixes. Sometimes they'll have MSG, sometimes they'll have BHT, which is a preservative. If you're selling natural pork or beef, that sort of thing, that's important. One of the reasons I was telling Greg, I drive an hour and a half to take my pork and beef to the butcher, because the butcher that I use can do organic processing and nitrite-free ham and bacon, because that's an MSG-free processing as well. That's very important. If you're selling a natural product, organic, whatever, if you're organic, it has to go to an organic processor. But if you're selling on that, it's more ethical, it's more humane, and it's healthier, your processor needs to be on board too. Because if that customer opens up brings home their custom butchered sausage order and they see MSG or BHT in there, or they see that their bacon was made with added nitrites, you know who they're going to call? They're going to call you, the farmer, not the butcher, because you're the one whose story they bought, and that if part of your story is that type of product that they're looking for, you need to make sure it follows all the way through. Anyone else? Who is doing more just beef? More than beef? Who is just thinking about getting into it? And any other questions? I've been doing the sustainable farming for 15 years, so I've built up some experience. So, all right, I guess that's it.